Safety and Development Committee will come to order. Let it be noted that all members of the committee are present. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of 4/29, 5/19, 6/2, and 6/16. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Alderman Weigel, seconded by Alderman Haas. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 2 on the agenda is a resolution relative to determination of application for special use permit for outdoor dining extension of premise for Paul Lee's Field Trip, an existing tavern located at 1430 South 81st Street and abutting parking lots located at 1400 South 81st. If you'll recall, this was before us at the last meeting, and we had the public hearing on it. There were some people here that complained about that they were calling the police with noise complaints. We have the police reports, and quite frankly, from what I saw, I think there were 3 complaints over the last 7 years, if I read that correctly, if I remember it right.
Yes, if you're asking me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, it was more than 3. Mr. Chair,
There were several complaints,
Yeah.
but a couple were for fights and things,
yeah.
but, right.
Can I make a motion to approve before so we can just get the ball rolling?
Yeah, you can.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Haas.
Yeah, just on my issue, I'm going to stick with the complaints of the neighbors who went out of their way to come here at our last council meeting and thought it was important enough that they did not want this to happen. So my vote on this is going to have to be no.
I guess, from my perspective, I guess I'd like to hear what measures you're going to take after hearing the complaints.
I had talked to two of the ones that were here the other day. I'll talk to, the one is about snow fence. I mean, it kind of blindsided me, so I didn't know what the police reports were or anything like that. I know we had some issues. A lot of times, if there are issues, we call to make sure we're proactive. The 10 o'clock, where they're gonna have to close the door. We're not even open yet. So those are the things. The bartender that generally is the Friday or Saturday bartender has to have the ratings brought in on him, and that may be where we switch people on there. They've been told multiple times, and I run for both of them to come over if they need ice or if they need anything like that. And I tell them, we gotta close the door. We could put a governor on the jukebox that only goes up to X amount of sound, decibel meter in there. They're cheap, they're easy to do.
Yep.
So that they don't have control over that. There's some things like that. So I don't have a problem doing any of that, so. I know, the first gentleman who said call Paulie's because it was loud. I know last year we didn't have insulation, we didn't have air conditioning, we didn't have a couple of things, so. Yeah, it was during our model, where the doors were open and different things like that. So we're gonna, put where on Paulie's, obviously it's not Paulie's, it's field trip, but it would be.
All right, there we go. I'm usually pretty loud, so so for those, the one lady had moved across the street. She was angry that somebody peed, and I understand that. I can't control when the brewer shuttles come back. If I watched everybody, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. That was one time. That was when she was living at the apartment complex next door here. I think she moved across the street 4 years later. So those are things that I haven't heard. So 10 o'clock, they know that. We can put a governor on the jukebox. I don't know. I haven't gotten a copy of any police reports or anything like that. As far as I know, is it 7? Is that what you had said?
Honestly, I didn't count them. I did read them, and I'll make a comment when you're done.
Okay. I mean, we try to do everything as much as possible. I don't think, and knock on wood, as far as any fights or anything like that, has been about 6 years. We had issues where one guy all of a sudden just went crazy. But I haven't seen anything else other than that. And we do, yeah, we can put signs on the door. Doors have to be closed after 10. They can go out the front to smoke. That's one of the bad things about the smoking ban. We try to work around it, clean it up. We get people that are, how shall we say, smokers that don't have tobacco products that go through our dumpsters every morning and through our cigarette pits to take those. So it's not only at night people are smoking during the day. But do you have any particular questions?
Mr. Chair, I have one follow-up.
Alderman Haas.
And this question is more for, I think, the rest of the committee who can clarify this for me. We've already approved tents for Pauley's at 8-1 and Greenfield, correct? And what's before us now is just another set of tents at Pauley's Field Trip, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could?
Alderman Weigel.
Mr. Budiak, I want you to understand that this isn't, what we're looking at here today is not what's been going on inside of the field trip, okay? This is what's going to be going on outside in your parking lot. And we want you to understand that, and I think you've gotten the message, because I don't think we've had a lot of noise complaints lately. Yeah, doors have to be closed, music has to be quiet, patrons need to be quiet, you know, but the concern is what's going to happen when you have, I mean, you've said variously, you're going to have people playing bags outside, and you want to have a stage, and you want to have bands, and I think you've assured us that the bands will be, stop playing at 9:30 at night? Do I understand that correctly? Okay, and that there would be,
During the week, so
yes, yes,
we scale it back to about 45 minutes.
okay.
People clear out.
And there would be no patrons outside after 10 PM?
And how does that work? Because they're smoking, like, how
Well, I'm not talking about somebody having a cigarette. I'm talking about patrons
Pauley,
out.
use your microphone, please.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I'm talking about patrons outside in what will be essentially an expanded licensed area of your premises.
Right.
Okay, so like right now, when people go outside of Pauley's on your side deck, do they take a drink with them on your east handicap ramp? Do they drink there?
They do out to like where the abutment ends. I tell them they can't take anything off of that ramp.
Okay.
Because it's not part of the building.
Yeah, and I'd hate to say, well, gee, your patrons can be all out in your expanded area here now till 2 AM if they have a drink in one hand and just as long as there's a cigarette in the other one. I'm just wondering how we're going to deal with that.
Right, and that's kind of the thing. At Pauley's right now, we're closing at midnight. Just to
Well,
kind-
you know, I understand what's going on right now, but this is going to be going on, if it goes well for you, we're going to be dealing with this through October, right? I mean, that's what we're
To a
looking
certain
at.
point, yeah.
You know, so.
I got quotes today, so I'm not sure if that's even,
Okay, so, but that's what we're talking about here, okay? I just want to make sure that your neighbors are happy,
right.
okay? Again, because when you and I talked about this maybe 2.5, 3 weeks ago, you gave me the impression that the neighbors were all happy with you.
And
And
that- and-
we didn't get the police reports till yesterday. They were in our packets yesterday afternoon.
Okay, yeah, and that was, I mean, generally, if something's happened with a neighbor, you know, we've taken care of it. If they'll come up and talk to me personally, or, you know, different things like that. We have new people that moved in behind,
Well, you know, I'm not
making.
let's not make it about the people who happen to live in the apartment across the street from you, because
No.
it's not their intolerance of you, it's your impacts on the neighborhood, okay?
Correct, right, sure.
You know,
Yep.
you can't say, well, she moved away, it's not a problem anymore. Well, I don't think she was the problem. I think, it took those people, I think, a lot to come here and speak that one night.
Sure.
As, I
Yep.
think, as Alderperson Haas mentioned, it takes a lot of guts to come up here as a neighbor to complain about a businessman that they know, and some of them know you. So, I would like to add that it seems like that you've gotten the message on the noise, and I also wanted one more clarification. And when I look at the application for these special use extension thing here, so is it your understanding, so this has all really been triggered by the COVID and the social distancing issues?
Especially there,
Okay.
is.
So
yeah.
your capacity at Pauley's is 75?
We've been running like, they want up to 75%.
I want to know what the sign above your door says at Pauley's.
At Pauley's?
Yes.
Is
No, excuse me,
99.
not Pauley's, Field Trip.
73.
73, okay.
Yep.
So this expansion outside into your parking lot is really to make an accommodation so that you would have room for your 73 patrons.
Right, inside there, with 6-foot distancing, you could probably have 4 people.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but so now outside in your parking lot, I guess I'd be expecting you to keep your total capacity hasn't changed. You still have a certain amount of bathrooms. You're actually losing some of your parking. It's actually the interior space that defines the 73 number. I get that.
Sure.
But I'm just concerned that depending on what band you have, you might have 250 people in that parking lot there. Because we can't predict today how much social distancing people will be doing in a month.
Right.
We've already seen a lot of events going on where people are, it's not, I'm not the social distancing police. If people are comfortable, or if they're maybe out with a family unit they're spending time with anyways, it might appear like they're not social distancing, but they're really with their family. I don't want to have that battle, because that would be going down a rabbit hole that we can't get to. But it's my understanding now that your total capacity at Field Trip, inside and out, will remain at 73. Is that your understanding?
I'm assuming that's what it is. We have the middle parking lot, it abuts, I don't know if that works to it. I mean, we're more focusing on Polly's
Yeah?
and like bags and stuff like that, or corn roast or pig roast at Field Trip. Field Trip has always closed on Sundays at like 6 o'clock, things like that.
So we know this may be a very strange summer in our business, because there's no church festivals, there's no Irish Fest, no Festa. Obviously, I think today would have been the first day of Summerfest. It may be, it's going to be a very different summer traditionally. So you may
Right,
be
and
a
kind
very
of-
popular place.
Right, and people have known, because we've sold tickets to these shows and done that in social distance and to a certain amount and limited people. So it almost seems, as we discuss how the business model is going, that Polly's is a little easier to contain everything and do everything like that. But Field Trip, if we can do the bags, or if we can do the ladder toss, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll be with you. I'm with you on that. That's the kind of thing that I wouldn't see a problem with there. But a band, Mount Olive rocking it or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, no big bands at Field Trip.
Well-
No big bands at Field Trip.
yeah.
That would be like a 1 or 2 person in the afternoon.
Yes, okay.
And
And
something like that.
As we discussed. So now I just want to make sure that I understand what we're talking about here. You're keeping your total capacity inside and out will be 73. There will never be 150 people there at Field Trip.
At the Field Trip, and then we'd have to get probably guidance from the city, how the middle lock works.
I'm sorry, how
Our middle parking lot, because this is to both of those.
well, my understanding is we're talking about the Field Trip here, which we can see in the picture. I understand you own the duplex that's between the two businesses, but these are what you call is the middle lot?
Yeah, where the cars are there.
Yeah, on the left in the picture?
So
To me, that's part of Polly's.
For
Or, excuse
70
me, Field Trip. That's part of Field Trip, correct?
Right, so that's why I wasn't sure if the 73 would be over there or not. But we're gonna generally use that for parking or bike parking or whatever.
But you're going to
So-
have a fenced-in area where alcohol is consumed
At Field Trip.
at Field Trip.
At
yes.
Field Trip. We can fence it in, do whatever we need to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that total number of customers you're going to have is going to remain at 73. Inside, when you add up everybody that's in Field Trip and everybody that's in the fenced-in area of the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't go anything higher than that. 73 people is a lot for that.
Well, I'm saying it's not going to go.
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So it's 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to item E on the agenda is a presentation of various ongoing development projects for informational purposes only, and there's no council action that'll be taken on these, just information. Mr. Steeble, Mr. Slosh, and Mr. Sherry.
We just, as requested, we have a update of what we're working on for redevelopment projects. I'm going to kind of run through them as quickly as we possibly can. Also, as part of our strategic plan for economic vitality and quality of life and image enhancement, our economic development initiatives are focused on those issues. And excellence in government is certainly one of them. I just want to draw your attention to a survey that was done by the Business Journal of the development community looking at at development organizations throughout the metro area, and West Allis ranked was one of the top ones, and that's what we take great pleasure and pride in that. Some of this things that we're going to be talking about, tax increment district, or tax increment financing is our strongest economic development tool. We have obviously limited resources for general revenue, but the theory here is to TIF or not to TIF. The point being is that there is a cost for doing everything. If you don't do something, it costs you. If you do something, it costs you. If you don't do something, an alderman had mentioned once we had a lot of TIF districts, do we need this next one? And I said, well, once we get going, we'll make $300,000 a year in property taxes. How many years do you want to wait? Well, that was the whole idea, opportunity cost. It will cost you if you don't. But doing nothing is always a viable answer, whether we should go forward on a particular project or not. A good example of this is the Summit Place. Created that through a tax increment financing district. Six of the top 11 property tax payers were all created due to tax increment financing. That's the power of tax increment financing. It's now generating about $1.5 million a year. Also, in new market tax credits, where we took a look at the old Renaissance area, where we created jobs and controls, and then put tax increment money into that, and created a Class A office facility. Johnson Controls has left. In the next few months, they'll be announcing a new tenant that's moving in there with 500 medical technology jobs that are going to be moving in there, and they'll take half that space. But it's just a great, marvelous space. Also, at that same time when we were doing this, the developer came to the city and said, I have to borrow money for the parking structure. He was going to do it through a different mechanism, and Just Controls decided to use that mechanism themselves. So the city loaned him approximately $4 million. And so we're generating about $170,000 a year in interest payments. And we probably would have gotten $40,000 a year if we had just had it in the city's bank account. And so we've been channeling that money into recreational activities over the last several years. Fortunately, because we're charging them 4.5% interest, they're going to be paying that note off this year, or next year, I should say, first part of next year, because the interest rate is so much better in a different environment. So we'll be losing that revenue that we would have loved to have gotten. But we turned that facility that was vacant for 9 years, into a Class A office facility. And Patrick, let you talk about Highway 100.
You might recall we completed the Highway 100 corridor study earlier, or late last year, earlier this year. We had it reported to the Common Council. The Highway 100 area provides a unique stretch of land from the northern city limits to 116th on the west and the freeway on the east, and it's a mixture of commercial, office, and residential areas. And when we explored the study, we were looking for new opportunities on how to grow the city, whether it was the vacant pick and save in our city and trying to attract a use, or looking at other pieces of land where we are a landlocked community and we're trying to develop new areas for growth. And whether it's a truck terminal area, trying to explore how we can get higher density, grow our tax base, and develop a vision that would be both interesting and exciting for people to visit the Highway 100 corridor and look at different types of uses. I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he can talk a little bit about the Northern Gateway and the zoning.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you. So this is the slide that was used previously from the Northern Gateway. This is the Hobo property in the immediate foreground on your right, looking north towards the zoo interchange. And the Highway 100 study was crafted over a 6-month period of time, starting last August, and then ultimately coming together in February as presented to the Common Council. What's being proposed in the former Hobo site is a U-Haul. U-Haul has purchased that property back in March, and subsequently there's been a moratorium that's been placed not only on this property, but another 8 properties within the Highway 100 corridor on the east side of Highway 100 from Washington Street north to the city limits. It's about 30 acres in size, includes 8 properties. All of those properties are zoned M1, which currently does permit which currently does permit self-storage, warehousing, vehicle sales, and rental. We see a future for not only this portion of Highway 100, but the greater extent of it. And you know, this is one possibility. If you leave the zoning the way it is, I mean, this is one possibility. You could certainly do self-storage. U-Haul has purchased this property, and they would spend roughly about $7.5 million to make that a reality. Another reality could be a future of another form of adaptive reuse, where you take the old Hobo building, for instance, as well as some of the other properties north of there, and you assemble them and you create a redevelopment, which would include perhaps event spaces, restaurants, commercial uses such as hospitality, like hotels and so on, places where people would spend a little bit more time rather than just to shop and leave. So that's one possibility. The Highway 100 study indicated too that you know, just taking a look at the Hobo property here, and then more or less clearing the properties to the north of that, creating some green space. This would become I guess just showing it as conceptually as a microbrewery with open event space areas, retail options, small little park, you know, office buildings, medical office, and then some flexible industrial space further north of that. So this is just purely a concept which was shared in the Highway 100 corridor study. And certainly things could change, you know, much differently, better. But this is at least a benchmark for the future, an alternative to self-storage and what currently exists. The Highway 100 study wants to create a walkable, pedestrian-friendly area, mixed uses, a little bit more diversity than just light industrial and just retail. Given the proximity to the Hank Aaron State Trail, which is immediately north of here, underneath the Zoo Freeway, it offers a great opportunity to attract people from outside the area, get them interested in this location here, and again, doing something other than just you know, passing through. The rezoning area that was presented last night at the Planning Commission meeting includes 8 properties, again from Washington Street here to the north city limits. This is the moratorium area. Rezoning would include changing the zoning from manufacturing to C3 commercial. It's just an aerial view of the same area. This is the existing zoning map. This is the future land use map, which calls for it to be rezoned to commercial. So the bottom line is we're just trying to get into conformance with what the 2030 land use plan shows, projects. C3 zoning does not allow the heavier manufacturing uses. There's no way you're going to see this, but in terms of permitted uses, special uses, retail, office, mixed use, apartments, it does allow, when you get into a little bit more of the industrial side of things, it does allow for microbreweries, limited food production, and some of those types of uses. So it's not just about retail. The timeline to date, again, the Highway 100 study was a 6-month process, which came together in February of 2020. Moratorium was placed on April 22nd. It was extended on June 16th, and then we had our Planning Commission meeting last night. Planning Commission did recommend approval, and I've been in conversation with property owners, including U-Haul, within this area. And for the most part, you know, everyone is in support of a future commercial area. I think U-Haul obviously has a vested interest they want to create their self-storage, but aside from that, everyone else so far has been on board with the idea of rezoning this area.
As Steve mentioned, there are different ways to explore it. We started this discussion on Highway 100 about redevelopment opportunities, and we need to look at sites that are underperforming and how to attract higher and better use. There are opportunities along. Recent restaurants, Baker Square closed, Perkins is for sale. There are development opportunities in this area, and there's interest. I mean, even with the COVID situation going on, we are seeing people calling and inquiring about sites, and that is a positive sign, and it shows the vibrancy of our community. The 102nd Lincoln area, we have the new Holiday Inn Express. will be opening here very soon. Their goal was July 1st, and I think they will hit that goal. I know a conditional occupancy, I believe, by building inspection was granted, so we'll hopefully be seeing some new visitors to our city here this year. Chris Hansen, one of our quiet corporate headquarters in our city. They have 290 employees in our city, and we recently approved tax increment district number 18 for their expansion. They have a freezer that is 65 degrees below zero. On a cold day, it probably is like a heat wave coming outside from inside of that location. But they are known as one of the world's most sustainable business because of the products they produce. And if you eat cheese today or yogurt, it's a high probability that it is influenced by a product from Chris Hansen, and possibly right here in West Allis. There's under construction. If you go out there today, they're grading the pads for the expansion. They built a sizable underground stormwater containment system, and that's to the northern part of this site, but we're seeing great movement on this site. There's a potential of 100 new jobs, and this development right now has a potential for 25 million in new value, with potential growth to over 100 million. With possible future phases and redevelopment, or research and development factors to be added to the site.
Another opportunity is the property at 76th and Hicks. But it was an old industrial dry cleaner. Dry cleaning solvents are probably one of the most toxic and hard to contain environmental issues. The company did a very good job of doing environmental cleanup. They probably spent multiple millions of dollars of environmental cleanup, and have gone down to as deep as 75 feet, dumping in enzymes to help eat up all the fluorinated solvents. It's now available back on the market, and about 9 months ago it was listed for sale. About the only issue or prospect we've had was a warehouse facility, which is not really what we want. We've been talking with West Allis Heating and Air Conditioning to build a facility on that site. As of December, they walked away from the project because it was too costly. It's something that we're going to be talking to you about in the near future, about how we can induce them to come back to make this kind of a building a reality. That's the kind of image we'd like to have coming across 76th Street over the hill, or coming up the hill, to see that kind of facility. One of the nice things about this is that there's two problems. One of them is the density that they're going to be building on that site, and they take it up the entire site with parking lot and building, and leaves them very little room for stormwater retention. And the other issue is that MMSD is looking at this as a new construction site because it's got grass growing on it. Well, we're talking with them now to try to get them, I mean, that'll add about $150,000 to the stormwater because it's got to be so much larger. A redevelopment sites are so much less. But I'll bring that up. This is a future opportunity that we're going to be coming back to you, and hopefully we can strike some kind of a reasonable deal and come back to you with a financing package that will make sense. 68th and Mitchell, the old industrial dinosaur, Milwaukee Ductile, has now been demolished and under construction. A $44 million new development is coming online here. They're moving right along very rapidly. In fact, they're anticipating that in late August or early September, they want to have a topping ceremony or a beam ceremony where it shows the highest beam in the building is built. And that's going to be this fall. And then it should be open in August of next year. Patrick, you want to talk about parks?
One of the things that we do in the Department of Development is often long-range planning and addressing our recreational amenities in our city. And our city has done great work following a recreational study. We've improved a number of our parks throughout the community, and our recreational amenities attract residents to our city, even I would say businesses as well. As they drive around, they look to see what's in the neighborhood, how are things being improved. It's things for their employees also to go and explore and enjoy in our community. But the residential parks that we have, we've made great strides in improving them. Recently, we welcomed the addition of a dog park. There are a great number of dog owners in our city and people who enjoy these family friends. and this is a great recreational amenity for these four-legged creatures. Public spaces are really key to our city as well. Utilizing our public realm to attract and help businesses grow. Having the outdoor beer garden, connections to outdoor dining, even during this COVID time, are very important. But even prior, this is something that attracts people to our community and to get outside and enjoy what's happening, whether it's ice skating or having a beer. Another item that our Department of Development supports is neighborhood associations. I know Alderperson Grisham called me this week and talked about La Follette and maybe Conrad Gardens, but we also are proud to say that Fairview and Orchard Hills and Rose Hill, East Alice, and Rainbow Gardens are great active organizations in our city that are helping residents become engaged. And that's really another part of community planning, is meeting with the neighbors, finding out what's needed, or showing what's happening in the community, and developing an arm for communication.
Thanks, Patrick. Complete Streets is an initiative that planning wants to bring to West Allis and make official via resolution. It's something that I guess if you've experienced National Avenue before with bump outs, the closer, shorter sidewalk crossings, bike accommodations, landscaping, sidewalks, of course. This is all something that equates to an urban area and more walkable versus just moving vehicles from point A to point B. Calming traffic and people walking or biking is something that we're striving for with every, not only every plan that we approve, but just as part of the capital improvement process, taking a look at what improvements could be made rather than just recreating a street the same way it's always been done. Our engineering department has been a nice partner to have in the design process, and they are aware and I guess working with us to hopefully bring some new amenities to streets. This is just a slide of the walk score. You can see, with Milwaukee bike score 54, and of course a huge population. West Allis is actually second, and actually bike score, but walk score is 61 in West Allis, which is actually better than Wauwatosa, and one notch lower than Milwaukee. So we're in the hunt. Yeah. This is the West Allis Town Center. It's seen quite a bit of change over the past 10 years. A lot of re-tenanting, new businesses coming, as well as working with the ownership in terms of upgrading and rehabbing the look of that center. More recently, with the addition of Hobby Lobby, the owners of the property wanted to put a truck dock right on the corner of 70th and Greenfield Avenue. They would have actually removed about 12,000 feet of building and then plopped a truck dock right in the corner, which would have been very exposed to the corner of 70th and Greenfield. It's a very busy intersection on the east side of the city. So instead, we worked with them through our site landscape and architectural review process to consider some different ideas to address that major intersection on the east side of our city, which is historically always turned its back on the downtown West Allis area. This plaza was the result of, I guess, the fruits of reviewing through the planning commission process and the review process with the owners. And we all came to an agreement that this would be an ideal situation at that corner. It's also going to be a future site of a mural. There's 4 murals that are being proposed through the Artscape group program with the help of Wallpapered City, who's going to be curating. And this wall is actually going to be enhanced with a mural, which is going to embrace city values and hopefully be an Instagrammable spot for the future.
Thank you, Steve. One comment about the complete streets is not every complete street needs to have green pavement and all the stuff that we've been doing. But we want to look at each street to see what we can do to make a better street. Some of them we might make it skinnier. 22% of the entire city of West Allis right now is composed of right-of-way. That's a lot of public land, so to speak. If we could reduce that through narrower streets and more traffic calming and make it a more walkable, bikeable community, the better off we are. But we'll be looking at each street project that we did, and then you'll be considering how important it is to advance it. One comment we want to make here is, because we're landlocked, we have very few readily available developable properties, and we try to prepare these sites to make them pad ready so they can attract development. In this case, it was Glenn Reeder built about an $8 million facility, and that's now their corporate headquarters. I think they've got 5 other locations around the country. We also took contaminated foundry sand from other locations, Presto Tech, et cetera, onto this site, which already had foundry sand, and raised the site about 3 feet, and thereby saved all that land from having to go to a landfill. And so that it's how we manage our redevelopment initiatives. You look behind the police station, you'll see that taller area. A lot of that has also got foundry sand in there. Motor chassis is another opportunity that we'll be looking at in the near future. What we would not want to see would be a cold storage facility. We would hope we could see something higher quality and more neighborhood sensitive. To that end, we worked with Zimmerman Engine Architectural Studios to prepare some sketches as to what it could look like, to induce the development community to take another look at that property and how they might want to frame it. One of the things that developers hate to do is to spend what they call inquiry cost. They don't want to spend money that they're not going to be able to get back. And so we try to reduce them, and we fortunately have a prospect right now looking at that site, has an accepted offer, wants to do multifamily, and it retains Zimmerman to do some additional work for them. Will it go forward? You never know. They haven't opened up the lid, so to speak, for the environmental issues. Those are always a paramount problem. So we'll be coming back to you with this one in the near future. Patrick.
Thank you, John. Commercial corridors we have a number of street arteries that run through our city that are historic commercial corridors. And we've been doing some work to help look at strategies or programs to help enhance our commercial corridors, whether it's getting architectural examples of how to enhance a site, such as Boy Blue, or acquiring certain properties to attract a use that is a higher and better use. In fact, the 6610 West Greenfield Avenue property was purchased to prevent an auto lube type of center to move in, to get a state-of-the-art, or not state-of-the-art, but a family restaurant, a destination, something that will be great for businesses in the area, employees as well as residents, and also create job opportunities. We also work on doing facade improvements, taking some of the aging facades that we have and figuring out ways to get a better look, a better curb appeal to our city, not only for pedestrian, but for business, and to have a better appearance for our city. It's image campaign in a way, to just do slight improvements to attract new uses to move in, and then to improve the neighborhood. Our Due Market Tax Credit Group was successful in raising some funds, and we invested those funds in an entity called Kiva to provide matching grants to help some of the very small businesses get started in our city and also fill storefront locations. This is Sway Tea in our downtown. They were our first recipients of a Kiva grant or loan, in which the business here will get matching funds. Let's just say if they had a $5,000 need, they would raise $2,500 on their own from friends and relatives, and then we match it with $2,500 at 0% to help get this business launched and started in our city. Our commercial corridors remain vibrant. We're getting new users exploring buildings. Here's Camino, their second location in the metro area, moving into our downtown. They did this during the COVID situation. So again, during this downturn in the economy, we are still seeing businesses kicking up the tires, coming, exploring our community. Beaches Street has been not only a partnership, but also working with different small businesses to move into this area. This is One Wild Ritz restaurant, a very nice signature restaurant, in which we partnered with the Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce on financing. We offer an economic development loan program to help business get started, and we provide these funds to help create job opportunities, fill vacancies in our commercial corridors, and then attract new people to the community. We did a facade grant to help address the meat market building. You can see a big transition between a vacant grocery store to this new active Beecher Meats location. Station 6, the outdoor beer garden type of location, an automotive repair center transformed into a beautiful landscaped destination location. Carrie's Krispies will be moving into this corridor as well, 7133 West Beecher. We recently approved a facade grant and economic development loan to help transition a vacant property. So commercial corridors are very important. Burnham Point is another example where we're actively working with the neighborhood. We just had a neighborhood Zoom meeting and get input from residents, which was very successful. I think we had 25 or 30 people on a Zoom call to give input on what to do in this neighborhood following the Better Block program that we did last year. They just completed an RFP for design, working with a consultant. I think we have 5 responses. They will be judged here shortly. And the goal is to start purchasing items and have construction begin late this fall and complete by early spring. How to transition this vacant gravel lot that we have into like the concept Better Block produces the ultimate goal. National Avenue corridor is a very long stretch of land, street in our community. We're looking to improve facades, attract businesses to this corridor. Father Jean is one that we recently improved. 7030 West National Avenue.
This is another project that we've been working on for years, and we finally have a developer, a dentist that wants to build a 2-story medical office building. The back taxes are about $150,000. Interest and penalties are about additional $200,000, which makes it undevelopable. We're trying to work with Milwaukee County to waive the interest penalties and the interest and the penalties, and then they'll get paid the 100% of the property taxes, and we're able to get this building then built into a productive use. And we'll probably be offering a $200,000 grant, forgivable loan, to induce the developer to come in and build this 2-story office building at this location, and everything looks very promising. That there's lots of different hurdles that we had to get over with deeds and all that stuff, but so we're very happy about trying to get this project put together. Patrick.
Also in this corridor is the vacant funeral home on 81st and Lapham. This was purchased by a group of partners from the Bass Bay restaurant. And if you've had the chance to try a milk can burger from the food truck, that's also an enterprise tied in with the Bass Bay. And sometimes that milk can food truck is parked right here on 81st and Lapham, and they plan to convert this into a restaurant and event space. They currently own the property. 6771 West National Avenue is the historic Kearney Trucker building that we removed the white siding in order to capture or apply for historical tax credits. This site is not only in an opportunity zone, a TIF district, a Community Reinvestment Act area, and then it has historical tax credit eligibility. So it really lends itself well. We're working with Baum to help renovate the property and put in food type of maker space in a way, event space. They have a plan approved, and we continue to look for prospects. This one has slowed down a little bit because of the COVID situation. A lot of restaurants and food businesses have been impacted by the COVID situation, the pandemic, and we hope to see more interest in the site. But this definitely is a great destination type of a project that we would have in our city.
The next major project that we want to talk about is the South 70th Street that you're well aware of. We just did some additional work with that. It's now it started off at a $30-40 million project, and then more, it kept growing bigger and bigger, and now it's up to a $135 million project. Excuse me. This is going to be a $135 million total project. The Mandel project is fully occupied for all intents and purposes. I think they got like a 4% vacancy rate. And they've considered themselves fully occupied and eligible for refinancing at 60 or 85%, 90% occupancy. And it's done so well, much more than they ever anticipated that it would be done. The next phase to that is the south. They're trying to do what we call a Makers Row for commercial businesses, and then maybe some multifamily or some other uses on the west side of that. Hopefully, we'll get we're very close to getting a coffee shop in there, and then maybe do roasting and some other operations in that. So it's more than just a small commercial facility. Element 84 is now open and operating. They're filling up the northern building now, and they're moving some people into this, I think, the southern building soon. So we're delighted to see that actually get moving. These rents are, like from $900 to $1,800 a month, and they're still filling up, and we're just kind of amazed that people want to pay that. But then again, that's the market. You go to Wauwatosa, you're going to be paying 25% or more for the same quality of building. And I think that's why West Dallas has really jumped ahead of them, because of the initial subsidy that we put in there through tax increment has lowered the developers' cost so that they can keep the units more affordable. And now it's that value proposition that is creating a huge occupancy rate for West Dallas, and then hopefully bring up all values all around it. That's what our goal is, and it appears to be working quite well.
As part of the initiatives to improve our street corridors, we're also doing more artwork in the community. This is a recent mural that was approved for the Crawdaddy's Restaurant on Greenfield Avenue. And then the Artscape Leadership Group will be kicking off the Wallpaper City initiative, where we're doing around 4 or 5 murals here in our street corridors. And the artist is set to start, I believe, next week on doing the Lamplight Inn and doing some, whether it's something like this or some nature of a mural on the side of the building. And there's some other locations that have been selected for the murals. We have an open call for artists, which is due June 30th. So there'll be a continual review of art and approval of those murals, and these will be all completed by late summer.
160th and Morgan is a public works site. There has been some issues with whether it's too environmentally contaminated to be redeveloped. Fortunately, MMSD was doing a major project where they were going to have excess dirt that they would have to get rid of. And if this was contaminated, we'd have to cap it, and so we would get free dirt. It was sort of like, here's a good opportunity to take a free look underneath the hood to see what the development opportunities are for that particular site. What we did is originally did some additional first round of testing, putting borings in the ground and see what the contamination or lack thereof. And it turned out surprisingly well. There is some contamination, but it doesn't look like it's going to be significant. However, now each of those that we've found something, we have to go the second round and go around that to try to find the vertical and horizontal extent. And then once we do, it'll be up to obviously the Common Council what to do with that land. Well, now that land could be used for condominiums like they have just to the south of it in Greenfield. It could be for a public works facility or a public facility, it could be it could be anything. It could be the same, could be used as the same. It's just sort of like we had an opportunity, a window open that we could take a look under the hood at virtually no cost, and so that's why we jumped forward on that. Another area, another opportunity is 82nd and National, just the area immediately west of the Pyramex Bank. A developer is coming forward, wants to do condominiums on that project. We haven't heard the word condominium since the Great Recession, but they're coming back, and they're going to be doing something unique. There'll be 34 condominium units, and they're going to have, I think if you heard of the concept of a tiny home, they're going to have 5 or 6 tiny condos, 560, 600 square feet. But there's going to be condominiums that can be selling for $325,000, so it's going to be a mixed-use type of development. One of the things the city would have to do was the city currently owns this land area. It's the railroad park area, so to speak. And they would want to be able to have that deeded to them so that they could build this little amenity that the public would also have access to as well. And as we talked about earlier on the Alice Chambers project, this building on the right side is being demolished, and it stopped for a while, but the reason primary was at the far end there. It's all built out of wood timbers, and they want to salvage everything. I think they're eventually going to end up salvaging about 95% of all the building materials on the site, particularly the bricks. I think there's about 3 million bricks that they'll be salvaging. And so that'll get started in earnest once they get that wood timber out of there. But to the south of that site is the hotel site. And hopefully next week they'll be able to start putting in, it's already got the pad ready, start putting in utilities, and as soon as they get their building permit, start putting some foundations and be able to open next September. This is part of the master plan. They also want to put, this is an old plan that's been revised significantly, but the hotel being down here. And we just had a neighborhood meeting, third neighborhood meeting with the McKinley Park folks. They're talking about how to reorientate the park and how they want to see the park uses prepared for the neighborhood. It was kind of like a community regional park, and now it's going to be more of a neighborhood park. It's what parks really should be. This is just a preliminary rendering of what the apartments would look like from 73rd Street. It's going to be a 2-story building initially, then it raises up to 3 stories, but this is just a concept. And my staff thinks this is kind of funny. I have been telling them often to lock and load, let's get moving, move, and Patrick just told me before he came down here, he slipped that in there. So if you have any questions about anything that we brought up about, please ask the person next to you.
It's around a 16-year-old photo, so.
Any questions for any one of the staff members?
I just wanted to add, there was a recent article about West Allis and the growing population that was in the Business Journal. That's a great symbol of our community and the progressiveness of our marketing and the efforts of our Common Council and shaping our community, whether it's the small businesses that are moving here, but it's also the residents that are coming to think about West Allis as a choice to live, and that's a real positive sign.
I think the recent surveys that we've had recently that showed how people like West Allis and really love West Allis, that has changed markedly over the years. I think the development that the city has approved and the image, the skyline that we're evolving, the marketing programs that the city has launched, all those things are working together, I think, to enhance the city of West Allis as a better, greater place to live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else to come before the committee?
I move we adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have about 6 or 7 minutes before the comment.